and welcome to my learning session. My name is Arpan Banerjee. I'm a research scholar at the Department of East Asian Studies, University of Delhi, and also academic counselor here at IGNOU. And I've been teaching you the paper, which is Administrative System at the state and district levels. The code of this paper is BPSC 134. So I welcome you all to today's very interesting learning session that we're going to have. And let us begin with our class today of the paper Administrative System at the state and district levels. And the code of this paper is BPSC 134. So let us begin. So in the first block of this paper, we had discussed the administrative system that existed at the state and district levels during ancient India, the Mughal period, which is medieval period, and the British period. So we had discussed as part of ancient India the administrative apparatus of the Mauryan Empire and the Gupta Empire. And after that, in the medieval period, when we had discussed the administrative apparatus that was prevalent in India at the state and district levels during the Mughal rule. And afterwards, we discussed that how the administrative apparatus was during the British Raj in India. And we have also discussed that what are the elements of continuity and change that we observe in the administrative apparatus that is there in our country today from the British Raj. How certain features have continued and how certain features have changed as far as the administration at the state and district level is considered. So that we had discussed as part of the first block of our paper. In the second block that we've been discussing for the last few classes, we have discussed so far the constitutional profile of state administration. We have also discussed the organization and function of the state secretariat, as well as the relationship that the secretariat has with the directorates. Afterwards, we had discussed the State Service Commission, the State Public Service Commission, and also the different services that are there at the provincial level. Afterwards, we had discussed the State Planning Board as well as the State Finance Commission. In the last class, we had discussed the State Election Commission, the Lokayukt, as well as the judicial administration that is prevalent at the state and district level. So we have so far completed 10 units of this second block of our paper. We have so far completed 10 units of our paper and we're left with 4 more units. So in today's class, we are going to cover unit 11, that is regarding the district collector. And afterwards, we are going to discuss unit 12, that is related to Panchayati Raj in India. So let us begin with unit 11, that is district collector. So the institution of collector, when we talk about the institution of the district collector, it was created more than 200 years ago. We have discussed during the British period it was created for the purposes of collecting revenue. That we had discussed in the first unit, and it is one of the most significant institutions that was transmitted by the colonial rulers to the public administrative system of independent India. So this is an element of continuity. Although its functions have changed considerably over the years, however, if we see the institution of the collector, that can be considered as an element of continuity. Now, the collector is the highest functionary of the district administration in our country. And there are several epithets that have also been used to describe this institution. For example, Annadata. The epithet of Annadata has been used. The epithet of captain of the team, eyes and ears of the government. These are some of the epithets, descriptions that have been used to describe this institution of the collector. Now, moving on, the collector has also been described as the kingpin of administration in our country. And in recent times, the collector has been described more benevolently. such as the collector has been described as the friend, philosopher, and guide, as the advisor and educator, as well as helper, as the fulcrum of grassroots democracy, and also as the mainspring of development. These are the terms that have been used to describe the collector. Now, let us discuss some of the functions of the collector. The collector started as a revenue functionary, as I have already discussed with you people in the first unit, and I've discussed it today also, I've mentioned it today also. So the collector started as a revenue functionary, and even today, if we see, the collector continues to be the principal revenue officer as well as the head of the revenue administration at the district level. And after independence, the importance of revenue administration that has become secondary. During the British Raj, revenue administration was the most important aspect, but after independence, the importance of revenue administration has become secondary. And what we observe is that the emphasis has shifted to development administration. Although still the revenue functions, they still remain with the district collector, but the emphasis has considerably shifted to development administration. And the collector is the chairman of the district disaster management committee as well. And this committee is responsible for making plans to mitigate the effect of disasters, as well as for providing immediate and long-term assistance to those who are the victims of such disasters. And the collector is also the kingpin of the relief operations as well when there are these kind of disasters. For example, and plays a very crucial role in relief operations as well. The district collector also functions as the district magistrate, and the district collector is responsible for the maintenance of law and order in the district. Now, what we observe is that after the separation of judiciary from the executive, the collector is concerned with the preventive sections of the Criminal Procedure Code. The collector is also the authority in our country to issue custody as well as detention warrants under special anti-crime and security enactments such as the National Security Act or the NSA. The superintendent of police, who is the head of the police force in the district, the superintendent of police or the SP helps the collector to discharge his or her police functions. So these are some of the functions that we are discussing of the collector. And the collector also continues to be the head of the district administration. And as the district magistrate, the collector is responsible for the maintenance of law and order that we have already discussed. Maintaining law and order is one of the most important functions of the collector. And because the collector is also the chief revenue officer, the collector also handles matters that are related to land reforms as well as revenue administration. So that is why we see that the collector is very closely associated with several other departments. Now, what are these departments? These are the Department of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj that we are going to discuss in detail later on today. Also, the collector is very closely associated with the Department of Social Welfare. So, as we have already discussed, the emphasis has shifted from revenue administration to development administration. That is why we see the collector is now more closely associated with these departments such as Rural Development and Panchayati Raj, Social Welfare Department. And in respect of Panchayati Raj, in several states, the collector has a very important relationship with the Panchayati Raj bodies, that is the Gram Panchayat, the Panchayat Samiti and the Zilla Parishad. The collector has a very important relationship with these bodies. And as the head of the district administration, the collector plays a coordinating role between different departments. Now, what are these departments? Revenue, police, as well as other departments. And the collector also has the power to suspend the resolutions of the local bodies as well. If these resolutions that these local bodies are passing If they constitute, if the collector is of the perception that these resolutions constitute a threat to public peace and law and order, then the collector has the power to suspend these resolutions as well. And the collector also heads a number of official and non-official bodies in the district. The collector exercises superintendence over the District National Informatics Center, or NIC, and the amount of time the collector spends on these activities, it depends on the collector's personal interest. Now, moving on, another very important function is that the collector is looked upon as a representative of the government at the district level, and the district collector hoists the national flag on Independence and Republic Days as well. And the district collector has several protocol functions also. Now, what are these protocol functions? They are meeting the ministers and other important dignitaries. And also in emergencies like floods, the collector can call upon any branch of the district administration to undertake any specific work to provide assistance in case of emergencies like floods or droughts or any other natural disaster. The collector can call upon any branch of the district administration to undertake any specific work in order to provide assistance to those who have been affected by these emergencies. Moving on, the census operations that take place at the district level, as well as the conduct of elections to various democratic bodies, starting from the parliament to the Gram Panchayat, is another important function of the collector. So the collector has to supervise all these things as well: the census operations, the conduction of elections to various democratic bodies, from parliament to the Gram Panchayat. And also, the collector is also an agent of the governor in respect of the scheduled tribe areas in some of the districts, because the governor has to submit a report. The state government has to submit a report to the governor, and the president can also take cognizance of the condition of the scheduled tribes in the scheduled tribe areas. So, in this regard, what we see is that the collector is an agent of the governor in respect of scheduled tribe areas in some of the districts. And also, there are other functions with which the collector is very intimately associated. Now, what are these functions? These are mostly developmental, related to development administration, like provision of social security and pensions, as well as granting of licenses also. The public distribution system, that has also become a very important part of district administration nowadays. The PDS, especially after the enactment of the Food Security Act. So, due to scarcity and rising prices, public distribution system, or the PDS, has now become a very important part of district administration. And the collector is directly responsible for the distribution as well as control of all the essential commodities as well as goods in the district. And in most of the states, the collector has a direct role to play in the functioning of the food and civil supplies department, which are in the collector's jurisdiction. And the collector also oversees the implementation of the public distribution system and has powers to enforce provisions of the Essential Commodities Act as well. Now, the collector has to ensure the timely and equitable distribution of scarce commodities. That is why the collector has been given the power to enforce provisions of the Essential Commodities Act. Another important function of the collector is with regard to food and civil supplies. In most of the states, the collector has a direct role to play in the functioning of the food and civil supplies department at the district level. And it is the collector who oversees the distribution of the who oversees the implementation of the public distribution system, that we have already discussed in the previous slide, that the public distribution system and its implementation is completely under the supervision of the collector, as well as the enforcement of the Essential Commodities Act also. The collector is the one who oversees the implementation of the public distribution system and has also got the powers to enforce the Essential Commodities Act and the rules and orders with that associated with it. So that we have discussed. So this was regarding food and civil supplies. Moving on, regarding economic development, agriculture, irrigation, industry, etc. So many activities and functions of these sectors like agriculture, irrigation, and industry, they have been transferred to the Panchayati Raj institutions and to the local bodies. However, the collector still has some role in many of these programs. So, what are these roles? The collector chairs meetings of various committees of agriculture, animal husbandry, veterinary, sericulture, handlooms, textile, irrigation, as well as the industries department. And the collector also reviews their activities in a bi-monthly or monthly meetings. And it is the collector only who coordinates among these various departments. Now, another important function of the collector is regarding human resource development. Though a major part of this subject of human resource development, which includes primary education, that has been transferred to the Panchayati Raj institution, the district collector or the deputy commissioner has been retained as the chairman or the co-chairman in some of the district level committees relating to human resource development, and also regarding rural development as well. The collector has a very important role. And all the major activities of the rural department, they also have been transferred to the Panchayati Raj institutions or the urban local bodies in some of the states. The collector still continues to be the nodal authority of many of these programs relating to rural development. And if we see under the National Rural Employment Guarantee Act or the MNREGA, the collector has been designated as the district program coordinator in some of the states. Now let us discuss the collector and the Panchayati Raj institutions. So after independence, the collector has become responsible for the implementation of the development programs in the district that we have already discussed. And as an administration, the collector is expected to coordinate all the development programs that are being implemented in the district, because the collector is the administrator of the district. Hence, the collector is expected to coordinate all the development programs that are being implemented in the district. And the collector's role in development administration also is visible if we look at Panchayati Raj institutions, because the collector is very closely associated with these institutions, either from within or from outside. After the 73rd constitutional amendment, the relationship of the district collector with the Panchayati Raj institutions, that has changed immensely. And the constitutional amendment or the 73rd constitutional amendment, as well as the enactment of the Panchayati Raj laws by various state governments in 1993, that has reduced the burden of the district collector on development activities. And the act which implemented the Panchayati Raj laws, that act has given a lot of scope to the state government to set forth the yardstick of the relationship between the Panchayati Raj institutions and the collector. So in this context, what we see is that some of the states, they have created the post of chief executive officer, and some of the states have opted for district development officer or deputy commissioner. So that is something which is visible after the implementation of the 73rd constitutional amendment. If we take the case of Haryana, in Haryana, the district collector is also known as the deputy commissioner. And in Gurugram district of Haryana, the district collector is the chairperson of the DRDA, right? Or the District Rural Development Agency. If we see in states like Kerala, Madhya Pradesh, and Maharashtra, the collector is the secretary of the District Planning Committee. And also the study conducted by the Task Force on Panchayati Raj That has revealed that except a few states like Kerala and West Bengal, bureaucracy is a dominant partner in decentralized governance. When we talk about decentralized governance, bureaucracy is a dominant partner. And in states like Andhra Pradesh, the collector exercises direct control over the Gram Panchayats. And if we talk about Odisha, the collector is the chief executive officer of the Zila Parishad. And in Maharashtra, the collector has a limited role to play. However, what we see is that even after the implementation of the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act, there is no uniform pattern regarding the position of the district collector in relation to the Panchayati Raj institutions. Now, when we talk about administrative support, the collector is assisted in her duties by a number of officers at various levels also. So generally, what we see is that there are 2 or 3 senior officers who are of the joint or additional collector rank. Now, these officers look after the revenue, law and order, as well as developmental functions. The collector in the collectorate is assisted by deputy collectors as well. And these officers, they look after different functions that we have already discussed, like revenue, law and order, relief, establishment, as well as other duties. So, if we see that this is the administrative support that the collector is provided. Also, there are district technical officers also, like the district agricultural officer, the district educational officer, as well as the district cooperative officer as well. And these technical officials, they function directly under the supervision of the collector, except there are a few states where these technical officers are functioning under the Zila Parishad. So if you see, the district is divided into various subdivisions. The subdivisional officers, they head each subdivision. In some states, these subdivisional officers are called the revenue divisional officers as well. And the collector provides guidance as well as leadership to these joint collectors as well as subdivisional officers. And if you see at the taluka and at the block level, there are tahsildars as well as block development officers as well. Now, these people are undertaking revenue as well as development functions. And they have regular contact with the people, and they are the real executors of all the government programs. And a large number of subject matter specialists, they are also functioning at the block level. And they are the ones who are initiating and implementing the specific programs, these subject matter specialists. Now, if you see, the collector also exercises significant control over the field officers through regular visits, inspections, as well as review meetings. And through these techniques, the collector monitors the program implementation and also provides guidance to the field officers. Now, the inspection of the collector is not only gives the collector a bird's eye view of the activities going on, but also enables the field officers to clarify their doubts also about the different policies and priorities from the collector only. Now, during these visits to the villages, the collector hears people's complaints about different problems relating to drinking water, water for irrigation, bad roads, poor housing, shortage of essential commodities, as well as inputs for agricultural operations like fertilizers, right? And also regarding corruption as well as insensitivity of the officers. So all these grievances are addressed by the collector. And based on these inspections and visits, the collector can assess the problems that are affecting the districts, and based on this, the collector can take the initiative to overcome these problems as well that are affecting the districts. And this gives the collector a clear understanding about the problems, apart from providing a personal touch also to the administrative system. And another very important role of the collector is to bring about coordination between the different departments that are there at the district level. And that is why we see that the collector acts as a catalyst for development And in some states, all the district level officers are brought under the control of the collector, and in some states, they are outside the control of the collector. Now, since the collector is the highest functionary in the district, the government looks towards the collector for providing the needed guidance as well as direction to the officers at the district level. Now, let us discuss some of the constraints that a collector faces in her work. Now, in the performance of her functions, the collector faces a number of problems as well as constraints. Now, these are the constraints which inhibit or restrict her work. And in this regard, there are certain problems that we will discuss in today's class. Now, what are those problems? These problems are frequent transfers, increasing workload, political pressures, as well as different crisis situations as well. And also, the individual orientation of the collectors are also at times responsible for the constraints that they face. So, let us discuss some of these constraints. The civil servants, they need to have a tenure which is long enough to understand the environment, and also it should enable them to establish a constructive, cooperative, as well as cordial relationship with the political leaders as well as the administrators that are there. So for that, they need a long enough tenure also, so that they can implement the development programs. And a well accepted policy in this regard is that to retain an officer in a particular place for a period of 3 to 5 years. However, what we see, unfortunately, this policy does not seem to be the practice in the case of collectors. What we see instead is that political interference and pressure is affecting the work of the collectors, and such pressures are generally brought to restrain the district administration in certain cases, like land acquisition, and they are brought in by the state government also. And also in cases of the use of judicial support for the followers, or issuing licenses or permits for scarce commodities. So regarding this, we see that there's a lot of political interference as well as pressure on the collectors. And if the district collectors, they concede to these requests, they are accused of partisanship. And if they resist the pressure, they are accused of being insensitive to the requests of the people's representative. The visiting dignitaries, like the ministers, they frequently interrupt the collector's work also. And the protocol requires that the collector must receive, and the collector must be available also to have discussions with the visiting dignitaries. Thus, protocol duty is another area which affects the collector's work to some extent. And in this regard, one complaint that is often made is that the collector is overworked. However, what we see that in the district, the collector is responsible for the maintenance of law and order that we have already discussed. And in practice, it is the superintendent of police or the SP who is the head of the police force in the district, and the SP looks after this function under the overall supervision of the collector. And quite often, the people who come to the collector with the complaints about the participation of the police and their failures. So the people approach the collector if they have any complaints regarding the partisan attitude of the police, as well as if they think that the police is failing in its task to maintain law and order. And the collectors association is indirect and minimal after the separation of functions. So once the judicial and executive functions were separated in 1973, the collectors association has become very indirect and minimal. So the relations with the police, they have always been very delicate and sensitive to the collector. In some areas, the police began to resent the control of the collector in the maintenance of law and order. And there have been many cases of strained relations also between the police as well as the collector. And with an increasing in the maintenance of peace and tranquility. That is something that we are observing. Another thing that we have discussed in today's class is that crisis administration is also a very important and necessary function of the collector. The crisis that some of these crises that we have discussed are communal disturbances, floods, dacoity, terrorism, accidents, as well as campus disturbances in the colleges, in the universities. Now, these type of crises, they demand the collector's immediate intervention, and this affects their normal functions, and also the immediate casualty is the neglect of development functions. When these crises take place, development function somewhere gets neglected. Finally, the collector who is committed to change in development process chooses her own area as well as preference for work. And some officers, they focus their attention on welfare of weaker sections. Other officers, they focus on health activities, and some of the collectors concentrate on special programs as well as activities of their choice. Thereby, secondary importance is given to the remaining functions, and this is another thing that constricts the role of the collector in performing their duties. And finally, we can say that the district government can be empowered while fully utilizing the institutional strength of the district collector. And it has been observed that the 73rd and the 74th constitutional amendment, they've empowered the rural as well as urban local bodies to function effectively. And as per the new administrative and developmental environment, the Panchayati Raj institutions as well as the urban local bodies that we have, they are the third tier of government. So they do not totally remove the collector's responsibility in matters of local development. And although we see that the significance of land revenue has declined, that has also not lessened the importance of the district collector in the management of land records and in the maintenance of law and order, as well as general administration also. And as an effective grievance redressal authority also, the collector has a very important role. The Second Administrative Reforms Commission. Now, what has the Second Administrative Reforms Commission said about the role of the collector? Let us discuss that. The Second Administrative Reforms Commission has said that these have remained and will remain central as well as core areas of state activities at the district level, even when there is full fructification of local self-government. Thus, it is very much evident that the district collector will continue to be responsible for a multiplicity of tasks at the district level. Now, what are these tasks? They are like improving human capabilities, improving economic opportunities for marginalized sections of the society, creating physical infrastructure, and facing challenges posed by disasters in the jurisdiction of the collector. And the collector will also have a new role in the district administration, that is the role of a coordinator that we have already discussed, as well as a facilitator or a person who is responsible for intersectoral coordination of the various activities of the grassroots administration. So this would provide overall leadership in the district in the task of nation building. So it is the task of the collector to provide overall leadership in the district in the task of nation building. So we have discussed unit 11 of our paper. Let us now move on to the 12th unit of our paper, that is regarding Panchayati Raj. Now, Panchayati Raj is a system of local self-government that we all know, wherein the people, they take upon themselves the responsibility for development, and it is also a system of institutional arrangement for achieving rural development through people's initiative as well as participation. Now, administration of development programs aimed at social, economic as well as cultural development, they are entrusted to local self-governing institutions like the panchayats. And the Panchayati Raj, it involves a three-tier structure of democratic institutions that we all know, at the village, at the block, as well as the district level. At the village level, we have the Gram Panchayat. At the block level, immediately above the village level, we have the Panchayat Samiti, which consists of several villages to constitute one block. And at the district level, we have the Zila Parishad. So this is the three-tier system that we have. This was recommended by the Balwant Rai Mehta Committee in 1957 to have a three-tier panchayat system. And the first such Gram Panchayat, as per the recommendations of the Balwant Rai Mehta Committee, was inaugurated in Nagaur district of Rajasthan. So we have this three-tier Panchayati Raj system in our country, and these institutions, they have been considered as the training grounds of democracy as well as of political education in our country. Now, rural development programs, they are implemented at this level so that the fruits of development can accrue to the community directly. And if we see today, there are about 276,718 Panchayati Raj institutions in our country. And out of these 276,718 Panchayati Raj institutions that are existing in our country today, there are 269,347 Gram Panchayats. And apart from that, above the Gram Panchayats, we have 6,717 block panchayats or panchayat samitis. And also there are 654 Zila Parishads as well. So in this context, there are 30.45 lakh elected members of these Panchayati Raj institutions, 30,45,000 elected members of these Panchayati Raj institutions, and these members are contributing in rural local governance. And it is to be noted that 13,79,000 or 45% of these representative of the 30,45,000, 30,79,000 are women. So this is according to the data of the Ministry of Panchayati Raj of 2019 and 20. 13.79 lakh or 45% members of these rural local bodies or Panchayati Raj institutions, they are elected women representatives. And these institutions, these Panchayati Raj institutions that we are discussing, they were established in 1959 based on the philosophy of decentralization and Gram Swaraj. And this was done as part of the recommendations of the Balwant Rai Mehta Committee. Balwant Rai Mehta, who was the Chief Minister of Gujarat as well. And the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhiji, he also envisioned and he also wanted Gram Swaraj. He also spoke about Gram Swaraj and about empowering the panchayats. And that is why we see that in our constitution, there is Article 40, which is a part of the directive principles of state policy that talks about creating Panchayati Raj institutions at the rural local level and also giving them powers. So this is a part of the directive principles, and it is called a Gandhian directive principle because it was Gandhiji's desire, it was Gandhiji's dream to empower the Panchayati Raj institutions. Now, if we discuss some of the background of the Panchayati Raj institution or of Panchayati Raj in our country, we have already discussed that there was some form of rural institutions that were in existence in our country since ancient period also, since the Maurya period or since the Gupta period. We have discussed that ancient rural institutions have been in existence. And also in South India, if you see during the Chola period, there were ancient institutions that were there at the rural level. And the village, it formed the center of rural self-government in the early times, in the early ages. And the villages, they also flourished during the ancient, medieval as well as Mughal period also. And during the nationalist movement, during our freedom struggle, the establishment of self-governing institutions at the grassroots level, that was a very significant part of the nationalist ideology, especially Gandhiji, who spearheaded the freedom struggle. He always envisaged that the panchayats should be empowered. They should be given more and more autonomy as self-governing institutions, and he went to the extent of calling India a collection of village republics. So Mahatma Gandhiji, as we have already discussed, who led the non-violent struggle for independence, what he observed is that he said that my idea of village Swaraj is that it is a complete republic that is independent of its neighbors for its own vital wants, and yet it is interdependent for many others, in which dependence is a necessity. So this is the concept of concentric circles or oceanic circles. So this is Gandhiji's concept of oceanic circles. The village being a republic of its own, which is independent as well as interdependent. So there is the small village, over it is the big village, above it is another big village. So it forms a oceanic circles. So this is Gandhiji's theory of oceanic circles. So he also was in favor of empowering the panchayats, because he considered the villages as republics in themselves, which were independent of their neighbors, but they were also interdependent on other villages as well. So India being a collection of village republics. This is what Gandhiji observed. And there was a constitution also, there was a document also which is called the Gandhian Constitution for Free India. In that also, Gandhiji expressed these ideas. And this was incorporated in Article 40 of the Constitution of India, which is part of the directive principles of state policy, which is relating to empowering panchayats and ensuring their autonomy. Now, Gandhiji's idea, they had a very pervading effect, and this was reflected in the Constituent Assembly debates also. Gandhiji himself was not part of the Constituent Assembly, but there were many Gandhians who formed the ranks of the Constituent Assembly, the ranks of the Congress Party. Article 40, as we have already discussed, that was incorporated in the directive principles of state policy, and this article, it calls upon the state to take steps to organize village panchayats and endow these village panchayats with such powers and authority that may be necessary to enable them to function as units of self-government. And the adoption of planning as a strategy for development, that required securing cooperation of the people in rural areas to implement the development program. So what we see, the community development program was launched. And the community development program, this was initiated in the country in October 1952. And as part of this, development blocks were established with limited staff and funds. The aim of this community development program was coordinated development of the area with the help of an extension organization consisting of technical specialists that would work under the leadership of the block development officer or the BDO. So the community development program and the national extension service, these were launched. And at the grassroots level, there were many multi-purpose workers who were recruited. The finances for these, for their salaries, they were made available on the basis of matching contribution from the community. And the intention here was to use limited government funds to stimulate action for self-help. That was the intention with which this scheme was launched. And the Panchayati Raj in India, as we have already discussed, it is broadly based upon the recommendations of a committee that is known as the Balwant Rai Mehta Committee, and that is named after the chairman of this committee, that is Balwant Rai Mehta. And the committee, this committee, it went into the detail of rural local governance, and it felt that the community development program, it could not make appreciable progress. So the intention with which the community development program had been launched, the Balwant Rai Mehta committee felt that the community development program could not fulfill the expectations. And as the bodies, they neither had durable strength nor necessary leadership. So these bodies that were created as part of the community development program, they did not have any constitutional status. So granting of constitutional status was something that the Balwant Rai Mehta committee emphasized upon. And another watershed moment in Panchayati Raj in India was the enactment of the 73rd Constitutional Amendment. And as part of this amendment, the Constitution of India, it provides for a uniform system of 3-tier panchayats at the village, intermediate and district level. But the panchayats at the intermediate level, they may not be constituted in a state which has population less than 20 lakhs. So the Panchayati Raj system, it exists in all states in India except the Nagaland, Meghalaya and Mizoram, and also in union territories also. However, it does not exist in Delhi. And in order to ensure a genuine and meaningful participation of the weaker sections of the society, this 73rd Amendment Act, it also provided for reserving certain seats for the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes when in the membership to these bodies. At all the 3 levels, there is reservation for the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribes in proportion to their population. So this act, it provided for reservation in the offices of the chairpersons as well to these categories in proportion to their population. So this has gone a long way in according a proper voice to these weaker sections in decision-making activities at all levels. Now, if we see women, they constitute half of our population, and in order to give them an opportunity of participation in these local offices, not less than 1/3 of the posts of chairpersons have also been reserved for the women. So these provisions make women and weak sections equal partner in rural development. And the Panchayati Raj institutions, they can grow and develop if they are provided with a strong financial base. And it is for this purpose we see that the Act has provided for a system of financial transfers also on a mandatory basis. And the State Finance Commission has also been set up in every state as part of this 73rd Amendment Act. So this State Finance Commission is set up every 5 years. This commission is set up to review the financial position of the panchayats